Hello, my name is Megan Gubiza, and this presentation will be on the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, and how it pertains or is a big change from the No Child Left Behind Act, or NCLB. So, what is ESSA in relation to NCLB? The Every Student Succeeds Act was put in place as a reform of the widely criticized No Child Left Behind Act enacted in 2001. NCLB placed emphasis on raising test scores, mandating qualified teachers, and providing educational choice. Many critics of NCLB have found that the complex requirements of the law have failed to achieve these goals and have provoked a number of unintended negative consequences which frequently harm the students the law is most intended to help. NCLB unfortunately did not consider the inequity of the American public school system, as a number of wealthier public schools have smaller class sizes, more and higher quality academic courses, more extracurricular activities, more resources, supplies, technology, and special services. ESSA. Is it the key to positive change? ESSA kept the same basic areas of emphasis, but allowed individual states to have more freedom in development, which aided in providing more opportunity for success to a diverse student culture. First, they updated a number of provisions that were found to have caused unintended negative effects on the student population. But they also maintained key components that improved student achievement over the time that NCLB was in place. In this presentation, 5 major policy areas will be highlighted. So first, and probably most notable, is the statewide testing requirements. Under NCLB, yearly testing in English and math for students in grades 3 through 8 was mandatory. Overall performance must be reported, and subgroup performance was reported as well. This includes minority, special education, and low-income students. So not only were the regular education students being assessed, but also the other students in those subgroups were assessed the exact same way, almost kind of completely ignoring the diversity element. Under ESSA, states got the option of testing once yearly or multiple times over the course of the year. This was a big change, as it is a huge difference to students to take one test at the end of the year or multiple tests throughout the year. Not only is it a little bit simpler and easier for them, but it also emphasizes growth over a yearly accomplishment. ESSA also permitted a handful of states to administer more innovative testing procedures based on competency and performance skills. And then finally, they provided funding for states to be able to audit their own assessment systems. The next area of change was academic standards. Under NCLB, high academic standards aligned with rigorous content and the teaching of advanced skills. Each state had to submit a plan that proved they were incorporating these skills. And then finally, states were incentivized to adopt college and career readiness skills like the Common Core state standards. Under ESSA, a lot of the power in federal states was taken away. So ESSA prohibits any official from mandating states to adopt any particular set of skills. This made it so that it was more difficult for states' plans to be deemed inadequate by federal evaluation. Next area of change was accountability systems. Under NCLB, the ultimate goal of 100% proficiency was enacted to be completed after 13 years. So NCLB was enacted in 2001. They wanted 100% proficiency by 2014. Also, districts were required to make adequate yearly progress, overall and in all subgroups. Under ESSA, dramatic changes were made to create more flexibility. States were able to create goals for themselves, and schools no longer were measured on just test scores, but now growth over time. So the goal of 100% proficiency in any area seems to be a little bit unrealistic. So I think ESSA, those changes made to create flexibility were also to address the areas of inequitable education. Another big area of change was in the measures taken for low-performing schools. Under NCLB, schools who did not make yearly progress 2 years in a row began targeted interventions. And these interventions were brought about by federal mandates. After 5 years, if those same schools did not make yearly progress, they then had turnaround models implemented as intervention. In these turnaround models, the following major changes could take place. New principals could be hired, new procedures for increasing the school day and the time of professional development could be implemented, or the school could be completely closed in its entirety. Now, under ESSA, they decided to identify only the bottom 5% of schools at least once every 3 years. Interventions were put into place for schools that failed to graduate at least 67% of students. And another big change was that the districts ran interventions rather than federal mandates. And at the same time, states had the ability to intervene if necessary. So this was a huge change in the area of giving power back to the state and the district. Another area of change, and the final area of change, is teacher equity. Under NCLB, teachers must be certified or must have been certified by their state. They also were supposed to pass rigorous state-mandated content area exams in order to be deemed as adequate. States required to create plans to decrease inequitable distribution of teachers. What that means is that certain areas had teachers who could have been deemed inadequate based on whether or not they were certified, and those areas oftentimes ended up in low-income areas. So the whole goal of this was to make sure that low-income areas and all areas have the same equitable education given by teachers who are deemed adequate. And then finally, unofficial teacher evaluation systems were put into place. Now, under ESSA, things were changed. States received more freedom in deciding who will be teaching their schools. So instead of government-mandated testing making those decisions, states now had more freedom to make those decisions as to who can be deemed adequate. However, states still required to report data of increased measures taken to decrease inequitable distribution of teachers. In conclusion, many believe that NCLB was a federal overreach that took power away from individual states in the development of a successful education system. The creation of ESSA gave power back to the states to control their goals, evaluation, and intervention procedures. NCLB emphasized test scores to determine school merit. ESSA changed testing delivery and decreased emphasis placed on scores. Finally, NCLB did not consider inequity of education systems. Or they did consider it, but the way that they delivered or the goals that they created seemed to feel ignorant of that. ESSA implemented more flexibility to have states address problems with the equity problems that were going on.